Hello，你好，Welcome back，欢迎回来to Wisdom Wednesday with Johnny Tiger on April 27, 2022. As we gradually get spring underway and then look forward to the arrival of summer, it takes longer here in Canada than other places. But I always said that no one enjoy summer in this world more than Canadians do. We really do enjoy summer here in Canada. And one of the things that we like to do a lot is camping, hiking, and all that outdoorsy stuff. Because you're cooped up inside all winter long, so when summer finally rolls around, you almost feel like you want to spend 24 hours a day and 7 days a week out there, just soaking up the warm weather. The other day, me and my friend James, we were chatting about camping, and that just brought back a lot of memories because I used to go camping a lot. Well, a lot. I mean, by some people's standard, that's probably not a lot, but I used to go at least 2 or 3 times a year, sometimes 5 or 6 times a year. Um, but as time passed by and I got older and my friends all got older, harder and harder and more expensive to to go camping. uh, the cost is so high now when you want to go camping. It's like, why would I want to spend $300 or $400 to camp out there for 4 days, sleeping in a tent, it being uncomfortable, not being able to take a shower, and all that stuff? Why would I do that? It doesn't make sense. $300, $400, that's enough for me to get grocery for a month if I stay home. So of course that becomes more of an issue. I mean, back then, I remember in the early 2000s or late 90s, if you get 4 or 5 good friends to go camping, let's say you want to go camp out there for 5 days, it maybe each one of you only have to put out $40. That's about it. And you didn't have to pay for this, pay for that, get permit for this, get permit for that, pay tax for this, pay tax for that. No, you just, going camping was a cheap form of entertainment. You're sleeping in the tent, you're enjoying the outdoors. You shouldn't have to pay that much money. But nowadays it's different. And also, as we get older, we kind of enjoy our city life a little bit more. We like to be able to uh, sit down, watch TV, and have a case of cold beer, and be able to sleep in a soft bed and without having to worry about running into a bear when we get up in the middle of the night to go use the washroom. So, yeah, it's harder and harder to get someone to go camping with. But thinking about camping made me think about one of the more constant and sometimes humorous, sometimes tedious, sometimes very frustrating activity that we always had to go through when we went camping, and that was cutting wood, splitting wood, build a fire. So today we are going to talk about Chinese people in the Chinese culture uh, and their beliefs and traditions and their habits around wood fire. Now, of course, nowadays most people say, well, why are we even talking about wood fire? Most of us we got electric stove, we got gas stove. Even in China, they must have gas stove in their house. They can't be that badly off that they have to burn wood. And you would be right. In China, they have electric stove and gas stove and microwave, just like we do. However, if you ever have the fortune and the good luck to visit China and go to the countryside, to one of the many, many villages and small towns, then maybe you will have the good fortune to try a very traditional Chinese dish. Well, it's not really one dish, it's a way of preparation. It's called wood fire stew. It can be pork, beef, chicken, whatever. But basically, they build a big bonfire, big campfire in the village square. They get a big iron pot, put it on top of this wood wood fire, and cook the meat right there in the open, using wood fire, wood smoke. If you ever have the fortune of trying that, I guarantee you, your everyday stew cooked in the slow cooker, cooked on an electric stove or gas stove, will never taste the same to you ever again. There's just so much more flavor, so much more goodness in the meat, in the broth itself when it is cooked over a good, honest to God wood tile, wood stove, and being cooked with wood fire and being uh, uh, infused with wood smoke. This is why, even to this day, there are a lot of places in China where wood fire stew is a thing. It's in the old days, that's how everybody cooked. Nowadays, it's a luxury. Nowadays, you either have to be very lucky to visit the right people in the right place, or you have to pay a lot of money because it is a lot of preparation and a lot of work to build a wood fire and cook a wood fire stew. But yeah, nowadays it's almost a luxury that people in the city, sometimes very rich people, go out of their way, drive for hours to go into the countryside just to find someone to make them wood fire stew. And it's not just wood fire. Like you obviously, if you really want to, you can build a fire using any kind of wood. You can go into the forest and just get whatever you want. However, Chinese people have a whole set of do's and don'ts and rules and what wood to use for what. So we're going to look at some of these today. It's probably never going to be very useful knowledge for you guys, but hey, you never know. If we ever see the end of civilization, when we ever have to go back into survival of the fittest and go back into being cavemen, then these knowledge may become very useful indeed. And if nothing else, next time you go camping, it's something that you can randomly bring up in front of your friend, and they will think that you're some kind of campsite guru and you know all kind of stuff. Now, of course, I don't have the rule book in front of me, and I don't have the patience to memorize all of it, but I'll share some of it with you guys. What to use for what kind of cooking. And that literally is an old Chinese proverb. You burn the kind of wood depending on what you're cooking. Uh, so, first, let's look at the staple of rice. Yeah, rice is a staple for Chinese people. We mentioned this before, but let's give a quick review. Rice is called fun, F-U-N, fun. To eat rice is 吃饭, C-H-E-F-U-N. However, because Chinese people have such big connection to rice, we use 吃饭. No matter if you are eating noodle, no matter if you are eating fruit or vegetable or you are eating potato, if we say, hey, it's meal time, come eat dinner, and we say 来吃饭, come, 来 L-A-I, 吃饭, eat rice. But in this case, it's just eat meal in general. When someone buy you dinner, it doesn't matter what they buy you noodle or rice or whatever, they buy you 饭. They 请你吃饭, they treat you to rice. 请 C-H-I-N-G means to treat, to invite 你 and I, that's you. 吃饭, eat rice. So if I want to take you out for dinner, I will say, hey, 我请你吃饭。我 me myself 请你 invite you 吃饭 eat a meal 我请你吃饭.
The time is now 4 p.m.
Anyway, enough review on rice. We will probably do an episode on some rice related stuff in the future. But I just wanted to do a quick review there. So when you're cooking rice, there's two kind of fuel that is traditionally said to be best. One is the stalks from wheat or corn, stalks from wheat or corn. So you're not even using like actual wood. You want to burn the wheat stalk. So when you take all the grain, wheat, corn off the stalk, you put all the stalks in one pile, tie it together, so it's like a bundle of wheat stalk, and you burn that. That is good for rice, because wheat stalk and corn stalk still have a lot of the goodness that the original grain have in them. The sweetness, the sugar, the moistness, it's always there in the stalk. So by using these to cook rice with, using this in your cook fire, this will infuse your rice with extra goodies from the wheat or the corn. The second best fuel for cooking rice is wood from pine tree. Chinese medicine believes that pine tree is related to strength and vitality. So if you are eating rice that's cooked from a pine tree built fire, that will infuse your body with good health, good vitality, and a lot of strength. Roasting duck. If you are roasting duck or pork, so any roasting meat in general, you want to use wood from fruit tree, like peach wood or cherry wood, because the fruitiness from the wood will infuse the meat and make them a lot sweeter and smell a lot better. If you're smoking meat, like you're just smoking fish, or if you're smoking uh, pork or beef, you got a smoker and you want to smoke meat, then you want to use pine branches, because the sap from the pine branch will help permeate the meat and make the meat take on that extra bit of savory smell. And not to mention, it makes the neighborhood smell really, really good when you use pine branch in the smoker. When you're making tea, now this is crazy, right? I mean, nowadays when we make tea, we just use boil the water on the stove and then we pour it into a teacup. But no, in the old day, they were really, really big. And if you are making tea, you have to use charcoal to build a fire to heat the tea with, because charcoal burns a lot slower than regular wood, and that will give your tea time to steep, time to get the flavor into the water. If you are preparing Chinese medicine, then traditionally you have to use bamboo, because bamboo, number one, is highly rated in Chinese medicine, has a lot of medicinal property, and second, bamboo burns really fast. So when you're preparing medicine, how long you cook it for and how hot the fire is, it's all very specific. Like you can literally ruin the medicine if you cook it 20 minutes too long or 5 minutes too long or you take it off the fire 2 minutes too soon. It's very, very specific. So by using bamboo, because it burns so fast, so you literally have to stand there and keep adding bamboo to it so you can pay attention to your medicine. You won't just stick a log on the fire and walk away, and then by the time you remember, your medicine's ruined. So when you're cooking Chinese medicine, you want to use bamboo. There's a lot of other stipulations and rules in what kind of wood you burn when you're cooking this and cooking that, but we are not going to sit here and talk about that for the whole day. But this should give you guys a solid idea on how intricate it is, the culture of wood fire it is in Chinese people, and how much thought they have put into uh, what kind of wood to burn. Not just that, Chinese people even cut their wood differently from white people. This one's interesting. I don't know if any of you ever seen this visiting China, or if you've seen this in Chinese movie. And if you have, you probably had a bit of a WTF moment. Let me explain this. So when white people cut wood, at least all the white people I've ever went camping with, they stand in front of a wood block, a chopping block, and then they take the log and then they put that log on the chopping block, and then they take the axe, and they hold that axe like they're some kind of medieval Viking warrior, and then they swing at that log like wham, 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 and then you see chips and splinters and little chunks of wood flying everywhere, and some people have lousy aim. They'll hit the block rather than wood, or they'll hit the wood too far off to the side, and that piece of wood will actually fly off the block. And I almost got hit in the leg one time when one of my friends did that. The wood almost landed on my ankle. That's how white people chop wood. Okay, now Chinese people, if you chop wood like that, the people are going to give you shit, really. uh, because in Chinese culture, you don't do that. That's like wasting energy, and it's dangerous for people around you. So what Chinese people do when they're chopping wood, they don't even need a chopping block. A Chinese person would take that chunk of log. They would leave the log in long pieces, so they wouldn't cut it up to uh, um, like uh, like a car tire. Like a lot of white people, they have the log about the shape and the size of a car tire. No, Chinese people don't do that. Chinese people leave the log more uh, like a section of the tree, like it's still long. So they lay it down on the floor. They put their foot on the end closest to them to hold it in place, and then they take their axe and lean forward and gently cut, cut the other end. They take the axe and very carefully uh, trim away at the other end. And if the axe gets stuck a little bit, they don't try to pull it out. If the axe gets stuck, they put more weight on their foot, so the wood is not going to go anywhere, and then they push on the handle of the axe to pry away a section of the wood. So when they're cutting wood, there's a lot less commotion. There's not going to be wood chips and splinters and chunks of wood flying everywhere. It's very more careful. It's much more careful. It's almost like they're carving the wood. Uh, that's how Chinese people are taught to split wood, to chop wood. Before we end the video for today, I want to say wood, firewood in Mandarin is called chai, and this is kind of important too, because this is almost the same word for wealth in Chinese culture. Wealth is cai, and wood, firewood is chai, cai, wealth, chai, firewood. So as you can see, it almost sound the same. Why is this important? Because there's a little interesting little tradition in Chinese history. A lot of time when you owe someone a lot of money, typically people expect to get paid right after New Year. So in the beginning of the year is when you pay back your debt. And so the person can move on and get their money back. Now they can start put their money toward new business ventures and stuff like that. However, sometimes people didn't have money to pay back the people they owe money to. So what they would do instead is that the day before Chinese New Year, people who owe money were going to the mountains and try to gather as much firewood, as much tie as possible. And on New Year's Day, before the days even begin, they will come and they will show up at the door of the person they owe money to, knock on the door, smile, Happy New Year! I just brought you some wealth. Here, I brought you enough firewood for the next 2 months. Now, on the one hand, you just did some labor for this person. Now they don't have to worry about firewood. And the second, this is Chinese New Year, and everyone wants to say and hear nice things and things that are going to bring fortune and luck for Chinese New Year. So if you say to this person, I just brought you a lot of chai for Chinese New Year, Happy New Year, and that sounds like you just brought them a lot of wealth. So even though you didn't pay them back, you did bring them a lot of good luck. So a lot of time, people were able to, you don't get out of having to pay them back. You still have to pay them back, but at least this tells them in an indirect way, hey, sorry, dude, I don't have money to pay you back, but can you give me a bit more time? You don't have to say that. When you show up with some firewood, it's that's what you're saying. That's your way of making it up to them by bringing them firewood and wishing a lot of wealth upon them on Chinese New Year Day. And quite often, people who lend you money, people who you owe money to, they'll understand that they'll be happy and they they will be happy that you wish them well and they thank you for the firewood and you don't have to worry about running into them tomorrow and they ask you for the money back. They understand you don't have the money right now, and so they'll give you a little bit more time before they bring up that subject matter. Like I said before, Chinese people are very big at insinuating and eluding and beating around the bushes. Uh, to Chinese people, to us, it is an art of conversation. That's what we call it. It's the art of conversation. You don't have to say something. You just do something, and then the other person understand it, and then they do corresponding thing to make you understand that they understand. Uh, that's just part of Chinese culture. Like it or hate it, well, that depends on what time of the day and which day of the month. Sometimes I hate it, sometimes I like it. Anyway, um, before we run on forever, let's end today's video. Thank you for being here with me, and I'll be back again tomorrow for some Toy Thursday. For now, 谢谢 and 再见。